Set in 2006, the movie centers on the deployment of British troops to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, a mission initially announced by the UK Ministry of Defence with the expectation of a peaceful operation. This narrative follows a British Army Operational Mentor and Liaison Team, OMLT, as they support a NATO-led initiative aimed at stabilizing the region and fostering cooperation with local forces. The story's primary focus is on a small patrol unit whose intended three-day mission unexpectedly extends into 2 grueling weeks, far from the safety and resources of their base camp. The unforgiving and harsh terrain of Helmand Province serves as the backdrop for this intense and gripping tale. The British Special Operations Team, known as Silicon 10, collaborates closely with the Afghan National Army during the perilous Operation Icarus. This collaboration is fraught with challenges, both logistical and interpersonal, as the soldiers navigate not only the physical dangers of their environment, but also the complexities of working with their Afghan counterparts. The film opens with an interview playing in the background, providing a reflective and poignant start as the team embarks on its mission. In this interview, an individual, perhaps a seasoned officer or a war correspondent, is asked about the team's morale at the outset of their deployment. He reflects thoughtfully, recalling that the morale was initially high, filled with optimism, hope, and a strong sense of duty and determination. After a grueling move, the team finds shelter in a secure location. As they begin to settle in and organize their belongings, Sumge is given a task by Sergeant Sol Campbell, instructing him to open the PO and check the vehicles every hour. At night, as Lieutenant Johnny Bradshaw and Taff keep a vigilant watch while the others sleep, the camp is eerily quiet. The only sounds are the soft rustling of the wind and the occasional distant animal call. Suddenly, a sharp gunshot rings out, shattering the stillness and sending a shockwave through the camp. Lieutenant Johnny Bradshaw immediately calls for contact, his voice urgent and commanding, jolting everyone awake and into combat readiness. The soldiers, trained for moments like this, spring from their cots, grabbing their weapons and assuming defensive positions. The adrenaline coursing through their veins is palpable as they scan the darkness for any signs of the enemy. However, within moments, a message crackles over the radio, informing them that it's a special forces operation nearby, not an enemy attack. The initial fear dissipates, replaced by a wave of relief. The soldiers exhale deeply, their tension easing as they lower their weapons. They share quick, relieved glances before returning to their beds, their nerves still on edge but their alertness intact. This brief scare is a stark reminder of the ever-present danger they face in this hostile environment. In the early morning light, as the team prepares to resume their journey, there is a noticeable change in the air. The soldiers move with purpose, checking their gear and ensuring everything is in order. Captain Bill Richardson calls them together for a briefing. He informs them that due to recent contact with the enemy, they will be staying longer than initially planned. Intelligence reports indicate a possible counterattack by Terry's forces approximately 3 kilometers away. The news lands heavily, a stark reminder of the unpredictability and danger of their mission. With that, he dismisses them, and the team disperses to make preparations. As the team sought shelter for a brief respite amidst their grueling mission, the weariness of their journey weighed heavily on their shoulders. They took the opportunity to gather their thoughts and catch their breath. Amidst this rare moment of reprieve, Smudge aired his grievances about the state of their weaponry, his frustration evident in his tone. The constant firefights and the relentless pressure had worn down both their equipment and their patience. Lieutenant Johnny Bradshaw, sensing the need to maintain order and focus, swiftly silenced him by addressing him with his real name. This action prompted an immediate and spirited retort from Smudge, who defended his preferred moniker, emphasizing the camaraderie and the informal bonds they had formed. The use of nicknames was a small but significant part of their brotherhood, a way to maintain a sense of individuality and solidarity in the face of the dehumanizing aspects of war. Stab then interjected, expressing a desire to be addressed by his actual name as well. His request highlighted the underlying tension between their military formality and the close-knit, almost familial relationships they had developed. Smudge, ever the joker, humorously illustrated the potential confusion that could arise from such a practice, lightening the mood with his characteristic wit. Their banter, though seemingly trivial, served as a vital emotional release, a way to cope with the constant stress and danger surrounding them. On the 11th day of relentless exchanges of fire, the tension was palpable, hanging thick in the air like a heavy fog. The constant threat of enemy engagement had worn them down, but their resolve remained unbroken. Suddenly, Taff urgently called for more ammunition, his voice cutting through the cacophony of battle. The team moved with practiced precision, preparing for resupply to sustain their defensive efforts. Just as they began to organize the resupply, chaos erupted. A sudden, sharp crack of gunfire split the air, and Taff was struck down. The shock of the moment was jarring, but the team reacted with the swift, coordinated response that comes from intense training and deep mutual trust. They rallied around Taff, desperately attempting to stem the bleeding and stabilize him. Every second was was critical as they fought to save their comrade's life. Their efforts were relentless, driven by a fierce determination not to lose a member of their tight-knit group. They managed to move Taff to a safer location, providing as much care as they could under the circumstances. The tension was unbearable, each second stretching into an eternity as they waited for assistance. Their prayers were answered by the welcome sound of a helicopter approaching. The thumping rotors grew louder, signaling the arrival of desperately needed aid. Relief washed over them as the helicopter touched down, and Taff was swiftly airlifted to receive the urgent medical care he desperately needed. The sight of the helicopter lifting off with their injured comrade aboard was both a source of hope and a stark reminder of the relentless dangers they faced. The team was deeply affected by the recent events, their emotions running high after the harrowing experience. After the helicopter whisked Taff away to receive the medical attention he so desperately needed, the weight of the situation settled heavily upon them. To boost morale and maintain focus, Captain Bill Richardson addressed the team, commending their bravery and resilience under fire. His words were meant to instill confidence and remind them of their strength, but the shadow of Taff's injury still loomed large. Despite the captain's encouraging words, Smudge couldn't hold back his dissatisfaction. He felt the strain of their circumstances acutely and needed to express his frustrations. As he and Stab discussed the recent events, Smudge began airing his grievances about the weapons issued to them. He felt the equipment was subpar and inadequate for the intense conditions they faced. His voice carried a mix of anger and disappointment as he detailed his concerns. Lieutenant Johnny Bradshaw, sensing the need to maintain order and unity, intervened. He asserted the quality of their equipment, defending the choices made by their superiors and emphasizing that they needed to trust in their tools and training. Smudge, however, was not easily placated. With a sharp edge in his voice, he challenged the lieutenant to name any military that used their specific weapons, leaving him momentarily without an answer. One night, while Johnny was rummaging through Taff's belongings, he came across a ration. As he hesitated about putting it back, Smudge suggested they use it, implying Taff might not survive and wouldn't need it. On day 13, Ginger delivered news to Smudge that more supplies were on the way. Stab took this as a positive sign, but Smudge explained that it meant they would be staying longer. They went outside and saw a plane approaching, hoping it was theirs. As it flew overhead, the plane released its supplies. They hurried to retrieve them, grateful for the much-needed provisions. Lieutenant Johnny brought the news to the captain that Taff didn't make it. He was scheduled for surgery but died on the operating table. Sol suggested not telling the team, but the captain insisted on being transparent with them. The captain stood before the team, looking serious. He took a deep breath and spoke with a steady, sorrowful voice. He then delivered the devastating news. Lance Evans, their comrade, had fallen. He paused to let it sink in. The captain thanked everyone for their immense effort to save Lance. Despite their best efforts, the place couldn't hold, but he praised their dedication to bringing him back alive. After another pause, he reminded them of the importance of their role. Without their help, the Afghan National Army couldn't hold the town. He urged them to act like professional soldiers until the end, saying Lance would want them to continue. Finally, he thanked them again, his voice softer, and nodded in respect to his team. Sergeant Saul then explained their strategy clearly. Terry was designated as the reference point. Their current location was within the valley. They had successfully arrived at their current position, and the next objective was to turn at the ERV. As they prepared to head out, Stab began to cry. While some perceived him as cowardly, the cap stepped in to comfort him, offering reassurance and support. The captain spoke reassuringly, trying to comfort Stab and encourage him to join the mission despite his initial hesitation. Despite a brief argument about leaving Stab behind, the team decided to continue their journey without him. As the team proceeded, one of their vehicles was struck by a landmine. They urgently called for assistance, signaling for a helicopter to secure the area and assist with the damaged vehicle. They returned to their shelter, tensions running high after Smudge angrily fired at Taff's bag. The sharp crack of gunfire pierced the quiet of their temporary refuge, immediately drawing the captain's attention. His voice boomed with a mixture of frustration and authority as he addressed Smudge's outburst. He strode forward, his expression stern, promising to discuss the incident back at camp. They ventured out again, returning safely this time. However, tensions escalated between Lieutenant Johnny and Sergeant Saul, nearly resulting in a physical altercation before the captain intervened. The captain ordered Sergeant Saul and Smudge to go out and speak with Lieutenant. As they ventured out, they discussed their reasons for being there and the purpose behind their mission. The tense atmosphere was sliced through by the captain's voice as new rules for the patrol were outlined. New rules for patrol are being declared, his tone unwavering and authoritative. Discussions about strategy or weapons are to be considered off limits. Any issues should be raised with the Ministry of Defense. Sergeant Saul and Smudge nodded solemnly in acknowledgement of the captain's direction. directives, they continued with their mission, and on day 15th, Lieutenant Johnny received a message over the radio that his wife had delivered a girl. Everybody congratulated him warmly. The sergeant delivered the news to the captain, who also extended his congratulations. Suddenly, Smudge intervened, suggesting they call it a day. The captain ordered him to go inside, expressing his desire to speak to the sergeant alone. The sergeant, however, revealed that he shared Smudge's sentiment, that it wasn't their war. The captain asserted his command, labeling such thoughts as cowardice in the face of the enemy, declaring he would continue, even if only he and the lieutenant remained. Smudge clarified that the lieutenant shared their view, reassuring the captain it wasn't just their sentiment. Finally, the captain relented, agreeing to gather their belongings and leave the area. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.